Provide input, questions regarding the budget. You can sign up to do so now if you haven't already. Anyone
Can't we
else?
see the budget first? Budget's online.
Call this meeting of the public hearing for the fiscal year 2017 tentative budget of the Lincoln Way High School District 210 to order. Please rise for the pledge. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Glatz?
Here.
Mr. Lilo?
Here.
Mr. Kirking?
Here.
Mr. Costa?
Here.
Mr. Lucetti?
Here.
Mr. Kozel?
Here.
Mrs. Molinari?
Here. First item on our agenda tonight is public comment. No one has signed up for general public comments. Dr. Tingley has a presentation.
Do you want general or do you want budget? Or does it matter?
They were both up
Budget?
there. Sign
Okay.
up.
I'm sorry. You want me? I can do my thing real quick and then
We have
And
to
then-
sign up to ask general budget questions?
yes, if you'd like to.
General. Anyone else? Okay, Dr. Tingley has a presentation regarding the fiscal year 2017 tentative budget. Dr. Tingley.
Okay, and this. Here's our slideshow that we have shared a couple different times. There have been some adjustments. We'll go over those as we go through this. The overview itself, we're still at new construction of $40 million. We hope to have a more solid figure before the budget is presented to the board here in a couple of weeks. CPI of 0.7%. State aid, once again, the same assumption of $5.2 million listed on the website. $750 in technology, $100,000 for equipment and O&M. Contingency accounts were included, $200 in the ed, $50,000 in O&M, and $175,000 in transportation. $1.2 million of general state aid has been moved to O&M to start generating surpluses in that fund to pay back the $6 million loan from the education fund. As we've discussed in the past, there's an increase in fees. Last year's driver's ed refunds flowed through the revenue account. 2010-11 refunds are budgeted for an expenditure account in the current year since they relate to a previous fiscal year. Large increase in purchase services is due as we anticipate legal fees this fiscal year and the movement of attorney fees to the ed fund from the tort fund. In operations and maintenance, $1.2 million in general state aid included in O&M, so that we'll be able to pay back the $6 million loan once again. Then here are some changes, and these will be posted on the budget for review tomorrow. In the first draft of the tentative budget, revenues from services to other districts was $870,000. We have reduced that budget to zero. The full amount previously allocated to O&M will now be allocated to the transportation fund. In reviewing activity in each of these funds, our business team has determined that there's no justification from an accounting standpoint to continue to record revenues from other districts in the operations fund going forward. As you can see, this reduced the previous budget surplus in this fund to $430,162 from $1.3 million in the first iteration of the tentative budget. Because of this, Steve Langer will continue to review our levy and make any necessary adjustments before the budget is adopted in order to maximize property tax revenues in the O&M fund to help offset the reduction in revenue received from other districts. Transportation fund, $1.3 million for state aid. Once again, is a conservative estimate. Our computations calculate approximately 1.6. We'll see what we receive from the state here. Purchase services, Budget is less than actual due to the lease payment made in June, and also a decrease in insurance due to better negotiated rates. Municipal retirement and Social Security, a decrease in revenue due to the adjustment in the levy. A reduction in support staff offset by increase in employer rate. Greater savings in certified staff and non-certified staff on Medicare is saved from the certified staff. Our tort fund, a decrease in tax revenues due to the adjustments made in the levy to align revenues and expenditures. And then once again, unemployment costs and workers' comp attorneys' fees are being run through the ed fund. We will increase in tax revenue is due to the adjustments that were made in the levy. Total operating funds, this is made up of the ed fund, O&M, transportation, IMRF, tort, working cash. We still anticipate a surplus of $2.2 million after years of deficits, several millions. And we'll continue to work through this. Debt service fund, that's our bond and interest. It's part of the levy. Capital projects fund, initial funding has been budgeted for summer 2017 projects. This will be a board determination whether or not we move in this direction, but this is outside the actual budget, as this is through our capital projects, and that's something that the board will be discussing in October and moving forward. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Next, we'll have public comments regarding the budget. Mr. Stephen Whaler, you have 5 minutes to make your comments. You will see a timer right here. Just one moment, don't start yet. And you'll checking your time. You have 5 minutes, sir. Hold on.
Clock again.
Oh, don't start now.
We will. Go ahead.
You start the thing.
Good evening. I wanted to talk about the process a bit. The mechanics of the school district budget outlines the process for doing a budget, and it's obvious from what we've been seeing that this is a much better, honest effort than what got us into trouble. But also the mechanics document, this is from the state board, it's an explanation of the requirements for the budget. But also this document has requirements for amendments and revisions to budgets. And I'd like to focus on that for a minute here. In discussions a year ago with the district, I thought this was well understood what the process would be, but the issue came back up in August at a finance committee meeting when one of the members asked a question, and I don't think the answer was quite right. So I got in touch with ISBE, and I walked them through a few questions, and I'll just go through my questions and answers, and I think this will help explain what the process should be. Question: is the mechanics document merely some good ideas that districts can pick and choose what to follow? Answer: no. The mechanics is a plain language explanation of state law and state board rules that apply to the budget process. It's provided to make it easier for school officials to understand these requirements. Okay. Question: what about 10% spending over budget? Is that allowed? Answer: that's allowed for accounts, or some call them line items, within a fund. For example, within the education fund. For example, if the school wants to pay $100,000 for ACT tests for all students, that's not in the current budget, it could transfer $100,000 from its contingency budget to the account line for the ACT tests. Board action is required for the transfer, and the total of all such transfers within the education fund is limited to 10% of the ed fund budget. If greater than 10%, an amendment is required. Next question. What about a case where spending will exceed the budget for a fund? For example, emergency roof repairs are required, and the cost of repairs will put total expenses for O&M over budget. The answer: a budget amendment is required for any spending that will exceed the approved budget, even by as little as $1. The process to adopt an amendment is the same as the original budget, including public notice, public hearing, and board action to adopt the amendment. Question: There could be a small, unexpected expenses that trigger these amendment requirements. Isn't that a nuisance? Answer. It is acceptable to the state board for the district to wait until May to start the process to amend the budget and do it one time for assorted small changes. Amended budgets have to be submitted by June 30th. So that's, to me, a pretty simple explanation of what the process is for amendments. The question is, what I heard in response in August wasn't that at all. It was we could spend 10% over budget and not have to do an amendment. And for a district with a $100 million budget, that means you could spend up to $10 million over budget without following state law, or you would do this without following state law for this state board requirements. So to me, that's just wrong. I expect the district to be following state laws and board rules. I ask you today, will you be doing that going forward? Will you be following this process that's required? Or what I heard in August, which was contrary to that, will you be following that path?
Well, I think we have a new building, I have a new business team in place, and we're going to continue to work our way through this budget process. You are right, one time an effort has been put into this budget. I anticipate at some point we would have to amend this budget, and we'll follow all rules as we work our way through this.
Okay. Well, that's what I want to hear, is that we're going to be following rules. I mean, there's a number of things that got us into trouble. Obviously, the budget is foremost to have that done right and monitor it. But when unexpected things happen, I mean, the requirements are there.
Yes.
I think one
Thank
other
you very
point
much.
to bring up, because I think it's a good point in following along with this, is that this year there were contingency accounts set up. So there were contingency accounts set up in education.
For FY17.
Pardon?
For,
Yes,
for FY17. There weren't previously.
Right. I'm saying for this, in this budget here, there's contingency for education, operations, and transportation.
I thought that was an important addition this year, that there was some contingency lines put in.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Robert Ripp.
I just had some questions on the budget.
Hold on just a second.
There we go. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Assuming that the FY17 budget comes in as planned, what is the district's financial profile score going to be?
If it comes in, I don't know that exact number yet, Mr. Rep.
Can you explain the difference on the website?
Can I answer that?
Go ahead.
We did speak with our auditor today to clarify that. I don't think Steve or I have ever been in a situation where TAWs have been outstanding as of a fiscal year end. So we will be adjusting, you'll see tomorrow on the tentative budget form, that our beginning fund balances are going to be actually our fund balances. And then the cash page will have what our actual cash balances are.
Federal funds are down by $400,000 over the last year. Do you know which federal programs those relate to?
I do not. No, we'll have to get that to you.
The district is supposed to do something called develop and update a 5-year fiscal projections for all programs as part of the budget process. Looks like it was supposed to be done in August of 15. Do you know if that's been done and incorporated into the budget?
That's in relation to board goals?
This is board goal number 3A. Says develop programs, identify applicable programs, develop program-specific options with cost breakdown for each option.
We did. During the process of working with PMA the previous spring, there was a 5-year projection. Going through this budgeting process for the next year, goals will be in place, and that's something the board will be discussing in October.
So there's an analysis of transportation, cafeteria, all of those different
All the
programs.
discussions moving forward.
And if we request that through FOIA, what should we ask for when we ask for that?
When we get to that point, I'll make sure you get a copy of those.
Oh, so it's not been done?
No, it's not been done. Not activity by activity, it is not.
Okay. You've said multiple times the legal fees have been moved from the tort to the ed fund. Can you explain why that was?
But I'll have Mr. Langert explain that to you. That was his recommendation.
That was it.
Thank you, Mr. Rick. At this point in time, we will have a motion to adjourn the public hearing.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
roll call, please.
Mrs. Glatz? Aye. Mr. Lulo?
Aye.
Mr. Kirking?
Aye.
Mr. Costick?
Aye.
Mr. Lucetti?
Aye.
Mr. Kozel?
Aye.
Mrs. Molinari?
Aye. Thank you all. We will now have the finance meeting at what time?
7:45. Not that it's going to take a lot longer.